Okay, I think that is running. Now, the audio quality is not going to be great. I've had problems with the microphone, and I don't have a very good microphone where I'm at now. But I believe that the audio quality is reasonable enough to at least be able to hear what I'm saying. So anyway, yeah, I thought I'd do a quick video for a little how-to as quick as possible, really, without giving you the full rundown on how to use source control and what GitHub's about, basically. But before we jump into GitHub, obviously you can see that on screen now. And so this is, in fact, we will jump straight into GitHub. So this is GitHub, and you can see here a number of, well, there's 18 repositories. These are on my private repositories. There's a couple of them actually shared. But generally, what is a repository? So a repository is basically a database for code. In fact, it doesn't even have to be a database for code. It can be a database for anything really, but it generally tends to be something in text format. And what it allows you to do is, like any other database, is have a very tight control over where you put things, how you store things. It allows you to back things up. And the other nice thing that you get with source control is it allows you to go back to any point in time from the past, obviously. We're not time travel here. Any point in time, which means that if you're adding new features to your code, you can get back to any of your previous work and you can move around. You can also branch, so that means that you can create different features that are diverse from where you started. Anyway, before I get too much down that rabbit hole, but just talking about it, what I thought I'd do is create a very simple repository outside of GitHub. I'll create it on my local hard drive. We'll keep GitHub out of the equation for the moment. So what I'm going to use for this is I'm going to have a pretend GitHub. This is going to be my pretend GitHub. I'm going to use two tools. Basically, I'm going to use the Git client, which is a command line tool. But to keep things simple for now, so I don't want to get too involved in the weeds, we won't use the command line. We will use a user interface, which is a nice little graphical user interface that I particularly like on Windows, called Tortoise GIT, which is going to make this very easy to use. So the nice thing I like about Tortoise GIT is it all integrates nicely into the Shell Explorer, into Windows Explorer. So if I right click on here, I've got all my Git options. Now the first thing I'm going to do, there's not many at the moment, so I haven't created a repository. The first thing I'm going to do is create a brand new repository. So let's imagine I'm a pretend GitHub and I'm going to create an imaginary repository. And it's basically asking me a couple of questions. We're going to make it bare bones. Now, what does that mean? This is bare bones. Well, just roll with for now. That's going to basically mean it's just going to have what it needs to be, just like it would be if it was on GitHub. So it's going to ask me for a name. It didn't ask me for a name because it just creates it in place. So I've got a pretend GitHub there. That effectively is a repository. Well, what that means is that I've got a database of the bare bones of a database that would just be like it would be as if it was stored on GitHub. Now, if I right click on that, I can start looking at a history and the log. Now, this again is going to be empty at the moment because I'm not adding anything to it. But the whole premise about GitHub is that for a given repository, and I'm going to grab up that path now just so I can demonstrate this. This would normally be a path to GitHub itself, but I'm going to do it to my local hard drive just to make things a little bit simpler. So what happens is I've got a database there that's effectively mirroring what we would do if it was on GitHub, my pretend GitHub. And what happens is you effectively clone that database into your own local hard drive, which I'm mirroring in my working copies here. And you create what's called a working copy of that database. And that allows you to play with it to your heart's content without any damage to the remote or the origin where it came from. So what you do then, therefore, is you clone. So I'm calling git clone there, and it's asking me my URL from the source. Normally that would be, sorry, I'm going to need to make sure that I get that from the right monitor. Normally that URL would be http blah 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 github blah 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 blah. but I'm just using my local file system here. So, and it doesn't matter what you call it on this side, because this is my local copy, or working copy as it's known. I'm going to call it that just so that it's, obviously I'm making the differences. That URL, it has to be correct because that's the source. That's where it's come from. I'm going to click on, and it's pulled it down from there, and you can see it in the background, it's created me a working copy. It's also telling me that I've cloned an empty repository. Well, we kind of know that it's empty. It's not empty for the fact that there's no files in it. It's empty because I've not done anything that's actually pushed any of my source to it. So that's what I'm going to do next. So now I have a complete isolated working copy. There's a hidden folder there, which does a bit of housekeeping for us. But let's, for example, and we're going to keep source code out of this for now, I'm going to create a text file. Let me get rid of that. I'm going to create a text file in here. And let's imagine we were just doing normal text files. It doesn't even have to be source code. First text file. All right. First file. Okay. So here is some data. Save that. Okay, so I've now got a file on my file store. It happens just to be in this directory. What I'm going to need to do now is commit it to my working copy so that it's stored in my working copy's local representation of this source code database. And then I'll push it up to the server so it's back on the server. So if I right click in here, I'll go commit. And you see it's a non-version there. That means, well, I haven't told it that I need that file yet. So what I'm going to do is say, right, okay, it realizes that there's a file in this file system, but what it's saying is, you haven't told me whether or not you want to track that file. Should that be part of the source control system or not? Should that be backed up? Should it be sent to the repository? And there are certain instances where you might not necessarily want every single file sending up. So what I'm going to do on here is I'm going to right click, I'm going to go add. And I've added that. Now it's forcing me to put a message in here, sorry. So I'm going to call it my first commit. I'm going to commit that. Okay, so close that. Right, so now if I do a Tortoise GIT and then I look at the log again, there's my first commit. And there's my file. And I can double click on that file and it will show me the contents of that file, and what I'll show you shortly is it'll show changes to that file as well. So what I've got now is this is now stored in the database, but that database is only in my local working copy. It's not stored on the server yet. So what I'm going to do is say I want to push you up to the server. So if I right click on here, I do Tortoise GIT and I go push. It's going to ask me a question. It's going to ask me a branches. It's a local branch, remote branch, whatever. For now, we're not going to worry about branches, but basically what this is going to do, when I click OK, it's going to push it back to wherever the origin was. Now, if you remember where the origin was, it was my local drive. Normally that would be GitHub, but now effectively, that is backed up on a pretend server. And now, if I went away and deleted this working copy, it's gone. Oh no, I've just deleted my source code. Oh, that's terrible. But now what I can do is I can clone it, pull it back. That's the original source. I'll call this something else, working copy 2, doesn't matter what it is. You typically leave it the same, but it doesn't really matter. The key thing is where it's coming from, that source. Pull that down. Now, if I right click on that or go into that and right click in it, I can go view history, show log, and there's my first commit. So now I have each individual file within there. And every time I do a commit, it's like a save point in the game. It's like a checkpoint or something or other. So you select when you want to do your commits, you push it to your working, you commit it to your working copy, and then you push it up to the server. So effectively what I've got now is my first commit that I've just cloned again, from my pretend server. What I'm going to do now is make a change to that. That's just a notepad thing. I'm going to, here is a change. Right, save that. And now, well, you see how there's a little icon there changed? That means, oh, it's not committed. But now, if I click commit, it's going to go, oh, this time it knew it was there. And it says, oh, it's modified. If I double click on it, it'll tell me what was modified. There's my change. It's tracked the fact there is a change. And here's the other important thing as well, well, a relatively important thing. When you do your commits, all it does is it sends up the delta. It sends the differences between the files. So it's fairly minimal in terms of what it does for, how much it needs to store things. So I'm going to say, okay, second commit done. If I could type. Okay, there it is. Second commit is done, and I can push from here, but for the purposes of completeness, I'm not going to push directly from there. So what I can do now, so if I do a click here now, so Git, bear in mind I'm looking at my working copy at the moment, so show log, you can see my second commit. But now what I could do, just for the sake of argument, let's go back into my Git example again in my working copy. I'm going to pull another working copy out from a clone. Now what are we expecting to see here? Let's just, I'll name it something to suit. I'm going to call it stale. It's not really stale, but anyway, you'll see what I mean in a minute. So I've cloned from that, but what I didn't do was push the previous working copy with a change up to the server. So now if I look at the history in here by show log, so I only got the first commit, but I'm going to go back to my other working copy, this one here, which was committed to this working copy. Now I'm going to push. So I'm going to do git, I push it to up to master. It's gone back all the way back to that server, so it's now on there. Right. So now, if I pulled it up again, and for the sake of argument, I'll call it working copy 3. Or I'm typing that much, I'll just do WC3. Right, pull that down, go back into there, show log. And what we're expecting to see here is the history of both those commits. Boom, and there you go. And anytime I want to see what happened between one and the other, I can double click that message there. Why isn't that working? I should be able to double click that message there. Oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong one. Click the commit. That's the commit there. And then there's the files come down here. So each commit has got a message associated with it, and fundamentally what uniquely identifies it is called the commit SHA, which is like a long number. That's what this is here. But within each commit, there's a list of files. I'm only doing one file at the moment, but you might typically have lots of source files in your world. That would be .c. So there, double click on that. There's the first version. Now if I go to the second commit and double click on that file again, it'll show me the differences. So all the way throughout this, I've got those changes. Okay, so that's up there. And now I could actually pull this stale one back up to date by doing a pull. This is what a pull means. The difference between a clone and a pull is a clone checks out fully. A pull is effectively a bit like a refresh. So if I click pull, it says, okay, go get stuff from the server again to sync up. And boom, and it's going, oh, okay, right, there was a change there. I noticed that you're doing a change. So now I'm back in here again. If I do a log, boom, there's my second commit. So this is now up to date, up to speed. One more thing I'll show you for now, just to, because I don't want to make this video too long. Also, I don't really know what the quality is going to be like. Let's assume that, well, first of all, we could have as many files as we like. So I don't know how many files we have. So let's have the second file. I've just done a copy there, but you get the idea. In fact, I will. Here's some. This is the second file. Okay, all right. So what I can do now, let's assume that second file is a new feature that I don't really want to pollute the first feature or the master. What I can do is I can create, or you can switch to a new branch. And I'm going to call it my new feature. Right. Boom. Okay. Now if I do a commit now, see, it's committing to my new feature. I'll just use something similar there. Right, I'm going to have that file because it didn't know about it. I hadn't told it I wanted to track it. So now that's added. Now when I click OK, it commits this. Again, it's only my working copy at the moment, but I'm about to push, and this time I'll take the shortcut. I'll click it from there. So I'm going to push. This time it's saying, what branch do I want to push? I said, well, I want to push my new branch. my new feature branch. And where I'm going to go to, it's going to go to the origin. Okay. Okay, right. Now, let's check out another one. Clone working copy 4. Okay. Right, well, I'm in working copy 4 now. Let's show the log. Oh, first thing you notice is that second file I just created doesn't exist there. Isn't that weird? Well, no, it's not. And here's why. Okay, if I look at the log for this, you can see the first and the second commit. But the other thing you'll see, if I switch checkout, which changes branch, is I'm on the master branch. My feature is down here. If I want to get to my new feature, I can click on that. It creates a new branch just locally. So you've got to remember there's a distinction between a working copy that's local and what's on the server, either GitHub or on your local file system you're experimenting like I did. So now you can see the second file's appeared. And now if I show the log, there's my new feature. And if I want to go back, because I don't want to work on new feature again, I want to work back on master, I'll just do a switch. And I'll switch back to master. And boom, that file's gone. And if I look at the log, there, you can see that the third commit's disappeared. Hopefully that should be enough to whet your appetite. The tools you're interested in for doing this is Tortoise GIT. And that itself requires installation of Git itself, which is the command line. But I'll put the links back in the channel. In fact, I already did, didn't I? So hopefully that gives you a bit of information for going on. You'll probably have some questions, but I didn't want to overload this video because it'll get boring and you probably won't watch it. Anyway, I hope that gives you help. Okay, cheers. Bye.